I'm gonna give you guys a lecture. I'm gonna give you World Conquest 101 or how to climb your mountain. Your mountain? Those mountains. Those 3 mountains. I figured because that video I did, the introduction video, it took me like 70 takes or something, and with every take it got less and less spontaneous, so I got really annoyed. I was like, this is robot me, this doesn't sound like me at all. This isn't the Twitch experience. So I figured it'd be fun to record it live with you guys. If you guys have shit to say, then we can do that in this scene. I can be like, did you guys have any questions? And then I can be like, that guy, there's a huge ass spider over there, wow. Zoom in hands! You see it? Burn it with fire. No, man, you gotta leave spiders alive. Spiders are great. You know why spiders are great? Because they eat flying things. And if there's one thing I don't want in my house, it's flying things. Spiders are fine. I fucking love spiders. I never kill spiders. Never. Flying things, they can fuck right off. But spiders? Nah, you never kill spiders. Okay, listen. Spiders are pets. So, let's start by looking at this screen over here. So we have a mountain. And these are all the achievements that we got in our first run for 373 and 373. In order on how we got them. So, as you see at the bottom of the slope in the middle over there, you see Royal Marriage, and then we got Build a Navy, and then we got Grand Army, and then
5 hours later.
Obviously, we got One Faith after getting the 3 mountains, but it would be dumb to have the 3 mountains not on top. So a bunch of people on YouTube asked me, why in the hell do you start with the 3 mountains? Well, we start with the 3. By the way, please be seated. Please be seated and pull out your textbooks, okay? Because we're only gonna do this once, okay? One take. Yeah, no mistakes. One take. Clear, concise. Yeah. This will be on the test. Yeah. And I'll be paying attention if any of you guys are playing EU4 in the background, okay? Not today. Yeah. Eyes up here. Why do we start with the 3 mountains? Well, we're going to start with the 3 mountains because for our project, we want a world conquest save. We want to have the full world completely conquered because that way we have a clean palette so that we can switch to any culture and any religion because we don't have to worry about conquering certain provinces. If you go over to the EU4 wiki and you go to the achievement page, you can see all of the achievements, and they'll have a column with starting conditions and a column with completion requirements. Okay? There's only one tag specific nation that requires you to do a world conquest, and that is Ryukyu. Okay, so it doesn't make sense to do more than one world conquest, because the only one that you have to world conquest with is Ryukyu. Now, sure, it'll be way easier to do a world conquest, nice and clean, with like the Ottomans, but then we'd have to do it again with Ryukyu, and world conquests take like, well, it depends on how good you are at speed 5ing, but it will take you around 11 to 14 hours, even if you're really good. And because it takes that long, because it takes 14 hours, it is very risky. It's a risky time investment. Because let's say that we're 200 hours into speedrunning the achievements. So we've done like 200 achievements and we're 200 hours in. And now we do the 3 mountains and we fail. Or we have to restart halfway through. Yeah. Now, all those other 200 hours, we can throw them in the bin and we have to make a new Steam account and start all the way over. And that would be shit. Oh yeah, so a lot of people get confused about the achievement requirements, okay? Because of the way it is worded. So an achievement like Philippine Tiger says, as Cebu, recreate the Chola Empire. Yeah. So you might think, okay, well, this means I have to start as Cebu. But you don't. Because sometimes it's worded like this, and then it actually means whatever. Yeah. So you can check this by going to the achievement page and then sorting by the starting conditions. And then you could, if it says playing as one of the following, then that is your starting condition. You have to play as one of those nations. So for the 2 Arab Timur, you have to play as Afghanistan, Transnistoria, or Fars, and after that you can form the Mughals. But for the Philippine Tiger, you can just do this one in your Ryukyu save. Okay, yes. So, because we have a clean world conquest save and we can switch to any culture and any religion, we can do every single achievement in our first run that doesn't require a starting condition. Because we're going to be able to do the Ryukyu one, and we're going to be able to do all of the non-starting condition ones, as well as a couple of starting condition ones that are like, you need to start as like a 3 dev or a low dev province and blah blah blah, all that crap. It doesn't matter. Anyway, slide number 2. Okay, so if you want to do a world conquest, there's 3 things that you need. You need to get cheap provinces, so that you can take lots of provinces in a war. You need to be able to core them for cheap seas, or integrate them using diplomatic annexation, like getting vassals. And you need to be strong, so you can win the wars. Now, if you are also doing a world conquest on speed 5, and you're constantly at the max speed, or if you want to have a chill time to do a world conquest, then you also need a 4th element, and I call that perfect stability. Now, that is not to be confused with stability, the in-game mechanic, but I'll explain what I mean with perfect stability later. Basically, you never have any rebels, ever. Never rebels. No, just rebels are removed from the game. There is gonna be no rebels unless something goes terribly wrong. We are also, because we're on speed 5, not going to be using vassals on a large scale. In other achievements, we do use a lot of vassals because they're great. They're great at the early game. They're fantastic in the early game, and we're going to be using a lot of vassals in a lot of speedruns, but not for this one. Because for this one, we need to conquer the whole world, and if I need to babysit vassals, I cannot do that on like a global scale, because then you have to constantly improve the relations, and you have to make sure they don't get their independence supported, and all of that shit, yeah? So we don't use vassals. Yes? This was clear? Okay. So now we might get to the part that might not be so clear. Because you know that picture with the guy that's like drawing all sorts of lines? That's like trying to explain the conspiracy theory? Yeah. Well, get ready. Get ready for this. Okay. Don't worry guys. We're gonna break this down, but I'm gonna make this clear and concise for you, okay? You see all these lines and you're like, oh, what the fuck? I don't understand shit. Okay, look at that. Lines are gone. We're gonna talk about points 1 and 2. Get land cheap. Remember that from the last slide? How we needed 3 things to do a world conquest? And number 1 and 2 were get provinces cheap and get the coring costs cheap. That's what we're gonna talk about here. So, first premise that we have 2 premises that we need to explain first. Okay? We are going to be, in this case, Mayan. Because we are Mayan, and because Mayan is very small in the world, there's not a lot of Mayan, war score cost versus other religions is effectively province war score cost for us. It's the same thing for us. Yeah? That's premise number 1. Premise number 2. We are going to have a justified casus belli for most of our conquests. That means that we do not need to stack unjustified demands. See this? We don't need that. Unjustified demands are peace terms that are not part of the war goal. You know how when you declare a war, conquest war, and you have a bunch of claims, if you take stuff that isn't your claim, you have to spend dip for it. And if your dip hits -999, you cannot send a peace deal. So for speed 5ing, that would be shit. Yeah? So we're gonna have a valid CB the whole time. And in our case, that is going to be Holy War first and then Imperialism. Now, if you're a horde, you can use Tribal Conquest for this to always have a valid claim. Or you can use Great Holy War, but because we are Mayan, we can't use Great Holy War. But if you want to do a run where you follow 90% of my strategy and you do it as something that isn't pagan, then you can use Great Holy War, which would be an upgrade. So that's why I'm mentioning it here, but we can't do it. Anyway, imperialism and, imperialism gives us more province war score cost reduction. Because it makes all of the provinces that you take cheaper if you use imperialism. Yes? It's good. Imperialism, good. So, what else can we do to get province war score cost reduction? Well, we can get diplomatic ideas, obviously. Right? Diplomatic ideas is going to give us province war score cost reduction. We are also going to get the Malta forts. Now, if you were to play as Sunni, you could use the Kaaba as well to get more province war score cost reduction, but we can't, so I'm going to delete that line because it's confusing and it doesn't need to be there. We don't have the Kaaba. Remove that. Okay, so there's another source of province war score cost reduction for us, and that is going to be government reforms. We're going to get a whole bunch of government reforms that give us province war score cost reduction. Yeah? Now, what else can you do to get province war score cost reduction? You can get admin efficiency. Admin efficiency is not the same as province war score cost reduction, but it will let you get more land cheaper, obviously. You get this admin efficiency thing by having absolutism. And you get some admin efficiency by getting certain government reforms, and by owning Alhambra in the southern bit of Spain. So we want Alhambra as quickly as possible. And we want all of this as quickly as possible. Cut that out. It's stupid. We say that later. Anyway, so you cannot get absolutism until 1610. Yeah? You have to wait until 1610 to get absolutism. And you need to do court and country. Sometimes you don't. In our case, we do definitely need to do court and country. Court and country is a disaster that can't happen until after 1610. So, we need to get there fast, because this also gives absolutism. Yes? Another large part of max absolutism is also government reforms. So you're going to have to pick government reforms that give you max absolutism. Yeah? Now, this was all to get the provinces cheaper. Yes? This was all just to get the provinces for cheaper. But we also need to integrate all of them, because if we don't integrate them, then, well, that's stupid. We get 9,000% overextension, and then we die. And we want a stable world conquest. If you don't want a stable world conquest, you could theoretically now just occupy everything and just piece it all out, and then that's fine. But we want a stable world conquest, yes? So, we need to get admin ideas, because it gives us cheaper coring. We're also going to get a bunch of CCR, core creation cost reduction, from our government reforms. And if you want to play as Hindu, then you can also get the Kashi Viswanath temple, and that gives you more CCR, but we can't do that, so we're going to destroy that line. Anyway, obviously admin efficiency also gives you cheaper coring. It's not the same as CCR, but it leads to cheaper integration. Yes, so admin efficiency does both of these things. And so Alhambra and absolutism also gets you the provinces cheaper. Now, what does this mean? Because we want all of this as soon as possible. Because if we get our discounts first, then everything we do is more efficient. Now, the biggest part of our discounts come from these two things. Absolutism, and in doing so, admin efficiency, and in doing so, absolutism. And we can't get that for 1600. And because we want to get here as soon as possible, IRL time, what we need to do is get to 1610 ASAP. Because this is a bottleneck that I cannot skip. Because it is just an in-game time, 1610, we cannot get it before that time. So what we want to do is we want to make our strategy up to 1610 as simple, or at least the least micro-intensive possible. So I don't have to press a lot of buttons, and it is mostly speed 5 without pausing. Any questions about this so far? Or was that clear? Or was that complete mental nuts? Did you work in Blizzard for 7 years? Yeah, when I play WoW, I roach out all the time. I don't even know what roaching out means, but let's just do that. So, okay, I kind of want to go back to slide number 2 for a sec. So we've discussed 1 and 2. Get shit cheap. Yeah, now we're going to talk about 3. The power. Okay? So, if you want to do world conquest, you need a power base. In our case, we need that power base to be very specific. Okay? So, normally, if you're just chilling and doing a world conquest, your power base just means get big, get strong, that's it. Okay? But we want a very specific kind of power base, so this is specific to our situation. We want to speed 5, so we have no time for micro. Okay? We just need to have so much overwhelming force that we win every war very easily. We don't need to think about, we're gonna let the enemy walk into a mountain, and then we're gonna stack wipe him here, and we're gonna have this convoluted plan to make sure that his army is trapped, or any of that. We don't have time for any of that. We just need to grab our face, roll it over the keyboard, and win. Yes? So, we also need high quality units. We need high quality units. If you're doing a normal world conquest and you have IRL time, you could micro with a lot of units, like high quantity of units, and beat everyone that way. Because you already own a large part of the world, so you're gonna have lots of dudes. But lots of dudes for us is not enough, okay? We need high quality units so we can have a stack, put it on a fort, and forget about it until the fort gets sieged down. So that even when it gets attacked, it'll win. But mostly, we hope that it just doesn't get attacked. And 90% of the time it won't. So we need to make the stacks big and strong. Because the AI does look at the quality of your units, and it's going to be like, okay, we better not attack this. And morale is a very big factor in that. Like, if you have a big stack, lots of morale, the AI was just going to ignore it. Regional superiority to global superiority. What the fuck did I mean with that? Okay, so at the beginning of the game, you need regional superiority, and then you need to transition into global superiority. And the reason for this is that you want to win wars quick, and at all costs, you want to avoid defensive wars. Because defensive wars are a waste of time, and defensive wars only get declared upon if the AI thinks it can win, which in itself means that you might lose. Well, not me, because I'm really good, but you might lose. So you want to avoid defensive wars at all costs, because it's also not something that you chose to do, so it doesn't fit in your plan. Okay? And the way you do that is by getting strong allies, by having high relations with people that might want to declare war on you. If someone has more than 100 relations on you, and is friendly, but if they have more than 100 relations, they cannot be hostile, and so they will probably not declare war on you. Or you can hide. Now, this is not applicable to us, because we can't really hide. But what I mean with that is, you don't border stuff that is stronger than you. You don't go and border France if you're not ready to fight France. So those are all like external factors, because there's stuff from outside, and stuff from inside is that you are strong and you have a big army so that you don't get decked. Okay? Now, you need to reach regional superiority before 1610. Obviously, in 4044, if you start as bumfuck 3 dev OPM somewhere, you're not going to have regional superiority, but you want to have it in a world conquest before 1610. Because after 1610, you get your other modifiers, and that's when you need to grow fast and big, yeah? And you now have from 1610 to 1670, that's your time frame to go from regional superiority to global superiority, okay? Because after imperialism gets unlocked, you must have global superiority. Because if you don't, everyone in the world at this point will have a CB on you, because everyone in the world is going to have imperialism CB. So at all times, everyone can choose to attack you. And you run the risk of Domino Day. Now, let's say that you have allies, and your allies are what's preventing most people from declaring war on you. Yeah? If someone declares when one of your allies doesn't want to defend you, then the alliance breaks. And now every other AI sees that you have no more allies and that you're at war with someone else. So you might get bing, bang, bong, bing, bong, bing, bong, bong, bing, bong, bong. 10 wars declared on you. If that happens in your world conquest, and God forbid your speed 5 world conquest, you are fucked. It is over. You're dead. That's a bird. You gotta restart. That's over. It's done. Okay? So, also, in a world conquest, you're gonna be grabbing a lot of aggressive expansion. So, you're also going to be getting a lot of AE on like everyone in the world at this point. And so you need to be able to deter the coalition from declaring war on you, because if the coalition decks you, then it's Jover. It's not Jover, but it's really annoying to deal with. It takes a very long time and it's just shit, right? And you also want to have the freedom to go wherever is convenient at the time, whatever fits your plan. Like sometimes you just want to conquer the world systematically, and you want to be able to do that without needing to worry about, oh, but then I'm going to bump into the Ottomans. So you just need to be the strongest power in the game after 1670. Throws paper in front of me. Sit down. Go get a yellow card. I mean, you know what? I don't even care. You do you, huh? I mean, I'm doing this for me, not for you. I'm getting paid either way. Okay, listen. I'm getting paid either way, so if you just want to dick around, and not do anything for your future, it's not. I don't care. You just do whatever. In our case, being stronger than our neighbors is going to be very, very easy, because we moved our capital to the New World, and that means that you can declare war on colonial nations and fight them without needing to fight the overlord, and you can fully annex them in one war because they still get a huge discount. Like, it's very cheap to conquer colonial nations, and it's still super cheap for you to conquer those, but you don't have to deal with Spain and all of their CNs at the same time. You can just attack one of them and beat them. It's great. It's fantastic. Simple. Following up on that, global superiority is also very easy for us to achieve, because after we conquer North and South America, we are going to do a bankruptcy build. But I'll explain that in a future video, okay? But we're going to bankruptcy build and get a huge ass power base with all of America, North and South, and we're going to completely build it up, and we'll be a gigantic empire that no one can stop. What if Spain enforces peace on you? Wait, hold on. I'm in the wrong. What if Spain enforces peace? So if Spain enforces peace on you, you accept it. You just accept it. If you get enforced peace, you just accept enforced peace. You have a 5-year truce. You keep speed 5ing and you declare them again, and next time you do it faster. Do you let the CN expand or conquer straight away? You let almost all of the New World get colored in. In our case, we need to make sure that at least one tribal nation survives, because we are going to decolonize the whole planet. And in order to do that, we need a tribal nation to survive. So you let the CNs colonize everything, but you save one tribal nation. You proclaim a guarantee or whatever, you need to save one tribal nation. Nosran, thank you for getting 5 subs, man. How do you avoid Spain declaring for Mexico? That is really difficult, but basically you conquer Mexico and you get quantity ideas and you just get strong. You try to search for a big ally, but you can't really 100% avoid it. But if they do declare, you surrender to them. You surrender to them, you just uncon, surrender. Yeah? They will then create a colonial nation, and then you fight that colonial nation. And it's free real estate. So remember, in slide number 2, we talked about how if you're on speed 5, you need a fourth element, and that is perfect stability. Okay? Because rebels are bad, rebels need to be deleted from the game, and they give micro, we don't want that. So, what do I mean with perfect stability? It is not stability in game, okay? I don't mean the mechanic stability, I just mean 0 rebels. Now, this means that if you are at peace and you have no overextension, the unrest in all of your provinces should be 0. Okay? So, even if it has the wrong culture, the wrong religion, and maximum separatism, the unrest needs to be 0. No unrest. Now, after piecing out a war and getting like 400% overextension, now your unrest is going to grow. But whatever the number is that you get from overextension is not going to be relevant for us. Because we are going to get 75% plus core creation cost reduction. In our case, we're going to get exactly 75. But if you get more than 75% core creation cost reduction, the time to finish a core becomes 9 months. 9 months. Now, rebels take at least 10 months to spawn in, because they tick 10% per month, at most. So if you have 9-month coring time, any unrest that you get from overextension is not relevant. You could get 9,000 OE, and it still won't matter, because you only have it for 9 months. So get ready, guys, because this next one is gonna be a doozy, okay? So, first we're going to talk about stability during peace, or rather stability whilst we have 0% overextension. And that is a combination of these two things. So we have tolerance of heathens and national unrest. Yes? Now, we're going to need to hit a tolerance of heathens of +3. Yes? +3 tolerance of heathens. This is crucial. Okay? If you have a tolerance of heathens of +3 or more, then you will not get negative effects from having wrong belligerent provinces. We don't have time to convert everything. We can't. We're going to conquer the world very, very quickly. We don't have time to convert it. We're going to get one faith by decolonizing the world. Don't worry about that. That's for the future. But for now, we need to make sure wrong religion provinces do not give us negative consequences. And so, if you have +3 tolerance of heathens, your religious unity will always be 100. You need your religious unity to be 100, because otherwise you'll get a malice to your national unrest. And also, those provinces will start to rise up every now and then, and you'll get less resources out of them, and it's just gonna be shit. So, you want +3 tolerance of heathens. How do we get that? So there are several ways that you can get that. I don't care how you're going to do it in your run or whatever world conquest you're doing, but you need to get to that +3. So in our case, we are going to have legitimacy. That gives +1 at 100. We are also going to give an estate privilege to the merchants. The interfaith dialogue, and that gives another +2. Now, the base value is -3, by the way, so you need to compensate for that. So, we are also going to have humanist ideas. That gives us another +2. And we are going to take the mandate of China and pass one of the mandate reforms called inclusive monarchy. And that will give us another +1. And that leads to +3. So, we're good. Religion, sorted. Okay, now, you can also get there using certain great projects, but the ones that give that are not applicable to Mayan. Like, you need to be Hindu or whatever the fuck, so we can't do that. Okay, now, humanism OP. Humanism, in our case, is definitely overpowered. Ad break. Okay, I finally understand my teachers when the fucking buzzer rang and they weren't done. Well, that's really fucking annoying. Well, okay then. Fuck. Attention! Attention! Please be seated. Please be seated. Hey, you over there. You have your speakers turned on. I know you're playing away. Close it and no, take notes. This is so fucking stupid. Anyway, okay. So we are back and we've talked about religion, okay? But you also need a lot of national unrest. There's going to be events that give you unrest. And you're going to have separatism. So we're going to want to reduce separatism because separatism gives unrest. Yeah, newly provinces have unrest as separatism slowly ticks down by 0.5 a year. And so every point of separatism gives you, every year of separatism gives you 0.5 unrest. And so if you have 5 years of separatism, that's 2.5 extra national unrest, right? So we need to compensate for this because we cannot fully get rid of separatism. And so we need a very big dick number over here. This number needs to be big. And these numbers over here are what we are going to end up getting. So let's break it down. First of all, we get some national unrest from legitimacy. We are also permanently going to have disorder, show discontent. Okay? Once you get to DipTech 18, every AI on the planet is going to show discontent on you and it's going to suck. So you're going to have -2. But that's kind of not relevant because you can't do anything about that. It's just a fact of life. We also have offensive ideas. So we can use a policy that we are always going to have turned on. That gives us the Liberation Act, which, where is it? Where is it? I can't fucking see it. Oh, it's right there. Liberation Act, which reduces the unrest not by -1, but by -3.5. Because it also removes 5 years of separatism. Yes? So that's the way we have to look at it. We also get reform the Ryukyuan religion. That is our national idea. Then, we are Mayan, and we have access to special Mayan buttons. That gives us another -2 national unrest. We also have the Mandate of Heaven, which, if it's high, gives us an extra 2.5 if it's maxed out. Then we have positive stability, which gives us -1, but stability is very fluid in our run, so it's not really that relevant. Trading in wine, we're not going to have this the entire time, but you know, it doesn't really matter. We have enough, is my point. And we are going to become the military hegemon, also because it gives us province war score cost reduction, but it also gives -3 unrest. And then we have 2 great projects that we are going to build relatively quickly. There's the Borobudur Temple, that one is in Java. And there's Tikal. And Tikal is in Mexico, and it also gives stab cost reduction. So it's a very crucial one for our run. We're going to have Tikal upgraded as soon as possible. Okay? So all this shit is for our peacetime unrest. So our 0% overextension unrest. For our unrest, when we have overextension, we're going to use 75% coring, 75% core creation cost reduction, so that the core is finished before any rebels can spawn that might arise because we are overextended. Now, how do we get there? We're going to have a monarchy reform that gives us 5% CCR. We're going to have admin ideas, which I didn't put. Oh no, there it is. Admin ideas gives us 25%. We are going to have, again, the Mayan buttons. That gives us another 20% CCR. We are going to pass Lifan 1, which is a Mandate of Heaven, or Empire of China. Celestial Reform. It's a Celestial Reform. So we're going to have that. And we are going to have, as our Tier 1 government reform, Blood Empire. Aztec Blood Empire. The only thing you need for that is Aztec culture. So we're going to be Mayan with Aztec culture. So that we can click this. Otherwise you can't get this. And that gives you Tonali mechanics. And if you pick the right deity in Tonali, then can give you at maximum power 15% CCR. And that, if you add all these numbers up, is 75%, which means any unrest that might come from having overextension is gone. Okay, keep in mind that core creation cost is not the price that you pay to core things, because the price that you pay gets modified by admin efficiency and by things like old power cost, like a golden age or innovativeness. But those power cost reductions, all of that does not apply time. The only thing that applies core time are the things that you see on the screen. Okay, so next slide. So what are going to be our ideas for this one? So first we go exploration, and we go exploration 3. We go exploration 3 because we need that to reach this. We need that to reach the Spice Islands, and we're going to conquer this for our power base. We also need exploration 3 to like explore this area, explore this area, and explore this area. Yeah, so that we can get to Mexico. We also would like to explore all of this and just explore as much as we can. We're always going to have our explorers running. Yes? Once we've explored a bunch, we're going to ditch exploration. Right? Cool. So, second idea is going to be admin, and we're going to pick the first 3 ideas in admin. Yeah? And once we're done exploring, we're going to ditch exploration and grab humanism. Now we max out humanism. If you have humanism maxed out, you get 10% idea cost reduction. We don't really care about the rest of this for now, so now we finish humanist. Yeah? Then we'll finish the rest of that. Now, Flurry, this is 2 admin groups in a row. Don't worry about that. That's an in-game setting that you can just turn off. That's just an option that you can turn off, and it doesn't affect Iron Man. And that rule was made for multiplayer, so I don't really care about that. I just turn it off instantly. Okay. Sound good? Sound good. Cool. After this, we go and we pick up offensive. Gives a bunch of force limit, and it gives us access to this fancy Liberation Act thing. Cool. Now we're going to want to start fighting the CNs a bit. So we go pick up religious, and we start grabbing this purely for Holy War. We're going to ditch religious later, because again, we're not going to one faith by actually converting everything. We're going to one faith by decolonizing the planet. So, at this point, we're going to be starting to make a lot of enemies. So now we want quantity. Yes? Also, land attrition reduction. Very nice. Now we go and we conquer North and South America, and then we ditch, after we're done with that, we ditch religious. There's another reason why we ditch religious, is because now we get to Tech 23 at this area, because you unlock this at Tech 22. So at this, around this area, you will have imperialism unlocked, so we no longer need religious to get a proper CB, because now we have imperialism. Okay? Good. So, now that we own North and South America, we're going to be picking up infrastructure ideas. We're going to be picking up either infrastructure ideas for the construction cost reduction, or economic for the National Bank event. So the National Bank event is going to allow us to pick economic or infrastructure, helps you bankruptcy build. Okay? It's good. We pick up one of those 2. Not both of them, but we pick up one of those 2 so that we can more effectively bankruptcy build. We ditch it later. We don't keep that because we don't want it. We only want it to build up our nation. We have all of our modifiers. Now we start to go nuts. And now we need diplomatic. We don't need diplomatic to eat all of those colonial nations because their war score is next to 0 anyway because they are colonial nations. But we are going to be transitioning now from conquering North and South America into conquering the rest of the world. So now we will need to start getting diplomatic because now the provinces are going to start to get expensive. Yeah, and obviously this is for a demonstration. We're not going to have 170,000 diplomatic points. Okay, so then we go and we pick up espionage. Because espionage will give us more siege ability. It's good. Siege ability good. And then to top things off, we pick up defensive ideas for the morale of armies, and also the policy that defensive has with humanist. Good. Oh, right. One little note, you can switch getting espionage and defensive around. Defensive will make your life a little bit easier if you pick it before espionage. I mean, you don't even need espionage. You could skip espionage, but you really do need defensive. So it's probably better for you to switch them around. We didn't, but it is probably better to switch these two around. So first go defensive and then pick up espionage. That's probably better. Next up, I need to explain a little bit of an exploit. Now, this exploit, for all intents and purposes, I'm calling this the flip-flop, okay? It's an exploit that gives you infinite reform progress. Now, how do you do this? Now that's a completely incoherent story, and this is kind of impossible to explain. But I wrote down the rundown here, so that if you want to look up the steps, you can do it again. But it's much easier if I just show you what the fuck you need to do. So you go to your government reforms. You get tier 1, you get tier 2, you get tier 3, you get tier 4, you get tier 5, and then over on tier 6, you switch into parliament. Okay? Now, you need to get a statesman advisor.
5 hours later.
You need to get this guy, diplomatic reputation guy. And then you can click a decision, formalize separation of powers. You can get separation of powers until the end of the game. Click. Now what you do is you go over to your reform progress. I need another 50. Okay. So you need to be able to get to tier 6, but also have 100 reform progress saved up. Okay? So now you switch out of parliamentarianism, and now you need to wait for an event that has an MTTH of 12 months. And that means you need to wait, on average, 12 months. You can get lucky or unlucky. Let's see. This event, constitutional restoration. The transformation of the station government is unconstitutional and unlawful because you abolished parliament, but you wrote parliament in your constitution. So, you can either say, screw you, parliament is dissolved, and then you lose stab and you get noble rebels, or you can say, when you put it that way, and then you enact tier 6 again. We're going to leave this button open, and we are now going to switch to a theocracy. And we are going to pass our reforms again. And it doesn't matter which ones you pick here. You can just pick whatever. You stab back up to +2 stab. And you switch into monarchy again. Now take a look at my reform progress. We had 260 something. Now we click any tier 1. In our case, we're going to be picking up Aztec. Don't pick a lock tier 1. Don't pick Celestial Empire. Just pick any non-locked tier 1. And we're going to go pick Aztec Empire. Now we say, well, when you put it that way, and that will unlock tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, and tier 6 for free. So, I'm going to do the same thing again. And abolish parliament again. Except now, we have 850 reform progress for free. And the event is just going to fire again. How do I get my speed 5 as fast as yours? Ah, here we go. So, it fires again, and we do the same thing over and over and over again. And we need to do that about 10 times. And then we're good. Then we have enough reform progress to switch our reforms very, very quickly. And also to unlock every government reform like this. Because we're going to do all of this before 1610. We're going to make sure that we have all of our reforms passed. And we can do whatever we want. And we want to switch our government reforms over and over again. Okay, so whilst we're doing the world conquest, we are going to have 2 modes. Okay? Most of the time, we are going to be a monarchy. Okay? Monarchies are great. Monarchies have the highest CCR. The highest core creation cost reduction, because they have core creation cost in their government reforms at tier 10, but also our tier 1 is the Aztec Blood Empire, and that gives us access to Tonali, which is an additional 15. So monarchies have 20% CCR, and it is the only way that we hit 75%, which is what we need to achieve perfect stability. Okay? So, the tier 1 reform, that gives us CCR, the 5%, we're going to be switching that one around a lot. Because every time we piece something out and we just quite can't full annex them, we can switch into a different tier 1 reform and get an additional 5% war score cost reduction. Then we piece out and we instantly switch back. Because we have like 10k reform progress, we can do this for the entire run over and over again, and it doesn't really matter. Now, that is the mode that we're going to be in most of the time. But sometimes, when we are fighting great powers like the Ottomans in France and Spain and whatever, something really big, something with like 3k development or something, we need to switch into Theocracy. Okay? Why do we switch into Theocracy? Because Theocracy has an additional 40% province war score cost reduction. Now, we already have 30%, 30% plus 15 from multiforts, so we already have quite a bit. We already have 45%. But Theocracy has a bunch more. Because Theocracy has more reforms, and the final reform, tier 13, gives us 25% war score cost reduction, and the tier 10 allows you to go from allows you to use militarists versus theocrats mechanic, which is basically, I don't know, yeah, it's basically like oranges versus statists, and it gives you another 15%. And that extra 40% might not sound like a lot, but if you already have 45%. And you tack another 40% on that, it basically doubles how much land you can take. But this does take a lot of time to do, IRL time, to switch this around. So we don't want to go crazy with it. And most of the time we don't need to switch. We can just full annex anything anyway. But we will be using it sometimes for big nations. Now, what does that look like? The first thing you do when you're in monarchy mode is you go and you declare war on a person using imperialism. You then win the war. Now I'm doing this in a normal game, so I can quickly just show you what it works, what it looks like. But yeah, for the purposes of this test, I'm just gonna go use console command. So you win the war. Once you've won the war and you're ready to peace out, you go over to your government reforms and you go over to tier 6, and now you switch into theocratic government. Now, before you do that, you want to make sure that whilst you're in monarchy mode, that you have this button active. This is a Tonali button that you're allowed to click if you're in the right deity. There's 3 deities in here. The only one that we care about is the one that gives core creation cost reduction and AE impact reduction. And that means if we're in this deity, that the religious festival will give us an extra 25% stab cost reduction, because we're about to do some things that cost a ginormous amount of stability, so we want to make sure that we have this active. Now, this will stay active even if you switch out of Blood Empire. We use that, and then we go over to tier 6 and we move into Theocracy. We then just go through the government reforms. Make sure you pick clerical state and not monastic order. This one fixes you to duchy rank, which is bad, so you pick this, and all the other stuff that you pick doesn't really matter up to a certain point. So we go do this. We do pick strength and religious head because we need to maintain our absolutism at 100. And over here, we're going to be losing stabs, so we make sure we pick that one. In tier 8, it doesn't matter what we pick. In tier 9, it also doesn't matter what we pick. And we pick open public elections. Now, open public elections will fire an election. Spoiler alert. And it gives you two choices. Now, if you're in tier 10, then you get this government mechanic. And you either have the militarists in power or you have the theocrats in power. Now, if you select the militarist, it moves you towards militarism. So we want that, so we pick this. We only need to pick this once in the entire run. The game will remember that we picked this at one point, and that if we are in the tier 10 reform for open public elections, it will remember that we have the militarists in power. And we want that for the extra war score cost versus other religions. Then tier 11 doesn't really matter, I guess. No, it doesn't really matter. We can pick whatever. Tier 12 doesn't really matter. We can pick whatever. And for tier 13, it does matter because we definitely want Proclaim Religious Head. And now we have 30% province war score cost reduction. I'm missing 10 because in the actual run will be a hegemon. But honestly, for this test, I cannot be fucked to go pick that up. But there you go. And we have 55% war score cost versus other religions, as well as 65% admin efficiency. Very nice. Actually, I just realized we're gonna have a little bit more because there is another thing over here called Reign in the Factions. It's another celestial reform. Completely forgot about this, but it's an extra 2.5. So remember to pick that up, I guess. Okay, so now that you've done that, you've switched into Theocracy mode, and you're doing all of this whilst pause, and you have a war that is ready to peace out. You can now just go and open up the war, and I'm just gonna move myself to H4 real quick. Use some splendor. We're gonna do this because it's much easier to show you what it is that you need to do. So we open up Bing, and now we can just go through this list and select everything. Now, as you can see, we can full annex Ming for only 74% war score. It will be even cheaper, actually a lot cheaper if we were the hegemon, because of the way percentage discounts work. But I'll talk about that sometime in the future. But this is 74% war score to full annex all of Ming. Very nice. Now, the only downside is that will give me 262% overextension. Now, that might sound like a lot, but it really isn't. Let's find the second biggest nation. Who would that be? France. Let's just tag France in there. Why not? It's just for demonstration purposes, right? So let's full annex all of France too. Why don't we? And all of their vassals. Why not? You can even make it so that you have a couple of wars ready to peace out, and then just peace all of them out at the same time. We do that quite a bit in the actual run as well. Okay, so now we have 400% overextension, and our unrest is really, really high, because 20 unrest points are from being overextended. Now, this would be a very big problem for us, because if we core stuff now, it would take 16 months to finish. That is way more than the 9 months that is our goal, because then we can skip rebels altogether. So, now that we've peaced out, whilst still paused, we go into our government reform, and we switch to Monarchy. And we make sure to select Aztec Empire, compromise the nobility. Let's go with representatives of the crown because we are allowed to have tributaries, and monarch power from tributaries will increase by +1. And it doesn't matter, even if you have the tiniest of tributaries, even if he has 3 development, he'll still give you 1 monarch point a year. And you can get quite a lot of these. It's a little bit of extra monarch point income. That's why we're mostly using representatives of the crown. Tier 4, I always want to have the extra diplomat. Tier 5, we want the sustained discipline for the land attrition. Tier 6, we probably want the yearly absolutism. Actually, you don't. So over here, you can switch into States General. And now switch back into Royal Decree. And now you get a different leader. And not only do you get a different leader, but that sets your legitimacy back up to 95. Because when you go from Theocracy to Monarchy, your legitimacy gets fucked. And this gets it back to where it needs to be. And again, we can do this as many times as we want because we did the flip-flop trick. So we have infinite amounts of reform progress. Tier 7 doesn't really matter, but I like Nobles of the Robe for the leader cost reduction. That allows me to spam leaders, which gives me professionalism so we can slacken and get more men quickly. Anyway, Nobles of the Robe. Tier 8 doesn't matter, but I take a lot of debt, so I like this. Tier 9, we want 6 livres de la République most of the time, because it gives me a little years of separatism. Sometimes we're lacking max absolutism, and then I'll pick this. It depends on what you need, really. You can do whatever you want here. And if you don't have enough tolerance of heathens to make sure that you have 100% religious unity, you can now switch into this one too. It all depends on what you need. Tier 10. Now this one is important because we definitely want regional representation here. And for tier 11, we want this for 2.5% extra admin efficiency. So now, if we go over to our cores, it still says 14 months. This is because we don't have Tonali maxed out, because we recently flipped from Theocracy into Monarchy. Now, that would be a problem, but thankfully, there is a way that you can increase your Tonali whilst paused. For you see, every time you exploit development, you get +1 Tonali. So now we go over to a production interface, we go over to exploit development, we include territories, and we sort by the amount of ducats it gives. And I'm using an auto-clicker for this. We just go down the list. Well, obviously in this test I don't have enough provinces to burn. So I'm just gonna, but in the real test, in the real game, we own all of North and South America, we own tons of land. So every single time you make a peace deal, you will have enough provinces to exploit development. But for the purposes of the video, we're just gonna go do government power? Government power. Fantastic, 100% Tonali. Now it still says 14 months, that's because it needs to update. So what you do is you click it, you cancel it, and then you look at it again. Now it says 9 months. We core all. Province is under siege. Oh, those guys had a couple of rebels. Okay, but 9 months. Let's just let it happen. I'm just going to turn Terra Incognito off so it goes a little bit faster. Let's let it happen and see if we even get a single rebellion. Hey, that one doesn't count. That one's not mine. It's one of my vassals. Again, that one's not mine. Yeah, a bunch of negative effects. Doesn't really matter. And our core is done. Why aren't these done? Oh. Right. Okay. Yeah, okay, so there's a slight little thing I forgot about here. I win the war, and that makes the remaining troops turn into rebels. Yeah. But as you can see, I didn't have a single actual rebellion happen, and now my unrest is fine. But you get the idea. It's fine. So that's what that looks like. And then you can just keep playing the game, and whenever you find someone that you can't full annex because they're too big, and this will only really happen when they have more than like 2k development, then you need to do this again and switch into Theocracy. But we only do this for huge countries. Maybe we declare war in the HRE, and we set a bunch of people as co-belligerents, so we fight all of Germany at the same time, and then we can just peace out using the war leader, and we just select all of the allies at once. It saves us diplomats, and it saves us diplomatic points. Because if you separate peace, that costs you dip points. But if you demand it from the war leader, it costs you nothing. So, we only use it for big nations, and to make sure that we can get rid of a bunch of people with a whole lot of allies, mainly stuff in the HRE. To summarize, in our world conquest, there's basically going to be 3 stages. We're going to have the stage before 1610, where we just try to establish our power base, which is in our case going to be, we're going to conquer Mexico, we're going to conquer China, and we're going to establish some mill ideas. We're going to try and get some strong allies, and we're going to avoid getting decked on by the coalition. Okay, We're also going to get our early game modifiers. So we're going to do the flip-flop that I just showed you. We're going to have admin and diplo and humanist and religious. You know, we're going to have all that shit sorted out. We're going to... This is also when you want to get all of your religion modifiers sorted. In our case, it's Mayan, so it's quite easy. And we want to achieve 90% stab cost reduction. Because that's going to be important when we talk about stage 2. But for now, we're only going to talk about the first stage before 1610. But we do need 90% stab cost reduction before 1610. After 1610, we're going to go do court and country, and we're going to attain global superiority, so we can declare war on anything. We're going to have North and South America fully conquered, and we're going to bankruptcy build and build that up. This is also ideally when you pick up Hegemon, but that's probably going to happen after we bankruptcy build, because we're going to build a lot of manufactories and force limit buildings and manpower buildings and all that shit. And this is also when we grab all of the great projects that we want. Malta, Alhambra, Tikal, and Borobudur Temple. And then after 1670, so after we achieve that ginormous war machine of a North and South America, we're going to grab our keyboard and we're going to just roll over it, because at this point our country will have perfect stability, which means never any rebels. We're going to have nigh infinite resources, and we're going to put on some Nightcore so that we click faster, and it's just good. Yeah, just high BPM music. It doesn't have to be Nightcore, but we just put on something that has a bit of a beat to it, so we click faster. Here's a brief rundown of the first stage in our TTM run. Alright, so I made this detailed rundown, and I was originally gonna make that part of this video, but I'm gonna separately record this and upload it as a second planned video, because it's getting way too long. And it'll be much easier for you to follow. Now, I don't have time in the actual run to explain this. And here's the second slide, by the way. I don't have time to explain this during the actual run. So, yeah, I'm just gonna, immediately after this one, there's gonna be another one where I just run you through this in a normal game, so I can quickly just go through all the steps. And it'll be much easier for you to follow along. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what you think of the format. Now, for most of the runs, we're not going to have this whole lecture thing. This is just for the 3 mountains, because this plan was so long, and I felt like half of my tricks and half of my strategies will be completely and utterly impossible to follow without this theory behind everything. So that's why I made this, okay? But we're not going to do that for every achievement. It's just for this one. And also, this is 170 achievements, so it merited a proper introduction. So yeah, let me know what you think, and yeah, bye bye.